that so-called birther issue, because yesterday I was traveling up to New Hampshire, and I got a call. I was in a helicopter. I got a call in the helicopter. I was just about to exit the chopper, and what happens? I hear that Obama finally gave his birth certificate. And I got such credit for that because I accomplished something that nobody else had accomplished. Everybody said it was amazing. They all said, you know, Hillary Clinton tried to get him to do it. Bill Clinton tried to get him to do it. John McCain, who's a wonderful guy, tried to get him to do it. Nobody could get him to do it. And he did it because we went after him hard. We're tough negotiators like this country needs. And I just ask one thing. Why didn't he do it 2 or 3 years ago? Why does he have to put this country through turmoil, which is what it's going through right now? I'll give you an example. Obamacare is a disaster, right? It's a disaster. And I know lots about litigation. I've been lucky in courts, and I guess a little bit unlucky every once in a while. But overall, I understand the system. And we're going through a process right now that's a disgrace. Either you have it or you don't have it. Why do we have to go through the lower courts? Why don't we just let it go right to the Supreme Court? I have friends. You know, this is a little like the birth certificate, to be honest. Why didn't he do it 3 years ago? I have friends, and a lot of friends, that are destroying their companies over Obamacare. They're preparing for it, but they don't know if it's even going to exist because the court could overrule it very easily, very quickly, and that's it. Now they've spent millions of dollars preparing their company, changing their documents, doing everything that you have to do, years of work, and then the courts could take a vote and lose, and it's over. By the way, that would be a great vote, but it would be over. And you say, why don't you, thank you. You say, why don't you just allow it? It's going to go there. Why don't you just allow it to go to the Supreme Court? If you win, great. If you lose, great. At least we know what the hell we're doing. Now, and I want to thank Phil Ruffin, too, because Phil, you know, he gave us his room. I mean, he's my friend, my pal. And Phil and I have another very, very successful building. You know, we have a building right down the road called Trump International Hotel and Tower, the tallest building in Las Vegas. We got it built, it's doing great, and we're very proud of it. And it's one of the great signs of all time, right down the middle of that strip. You drive down that strip, what do you see? Trump. Better believe it. So we've had a great time, and he's been a great partner and a great friend. I mean, much more importantly, he has been a great friend, and he's a great guy for the state of Nevada. He's a great guy for Las Vegas, and I mean it. And you know, when I was thinking about Obama, I said, hey, I'm going to come here, I'm going to make a speech. And I remember a few years ago when things weren't so good, and Obama did a whole big thing on not coming to Las Vegas. And he didn't do it once, he did it twice. And I have a lot of friends, including Steve Wynn and others, that were not happy, and the banks canceled out, and all sorts of people canceled out. And you know, you look at what you have, and even now, unemployment over 13%. Think of it. And we have a president saying, don't go to Las Vegas. Unemployment, #1 in foreclosures in the nation. Not great. I mean, I don't want to make you people depressed, but this is what you've got. Your visitors have decreased markedly, and the gaming revenue, as you understand, is way down. I mean, it's got some serious problems. And yet, when we have a president, we have to have a cheerleader. You know, I've seen the best politicians. I've dealt with all. Somebody said, but Donald, you're running for president, but do you have any experience in politics? I've dealt with these frickin' politicians all my life. And And they're fine, some are good, some are honest, some are crooks. I mean, you got them all. They come in all shapes and sizes, But I think it's good. I think, having the perspective that I have as a businessman, and I made a lot of money. I mean, I've done well. They criticize me because I contribute to Democrats also. Excuse me, if you're in New York, we only have Democrats. Somebody said, oh, gee, you didn't contribute to a Republican. Well, the polls come out, and I'm a believer in the polls. The polls come out. The Republican is scheduled to get, if he really does well, 4% of the vote. And then he comes up to my office, Mr. Trump, I think I can get 5 or 6%. They say, you know what, I love you very much. No, thank you. So it's amazing. Now, speaking of polls, as you probably just saw, the Rasmussen poll, which is a great one, you saw it, just came out, and who's number one? Trump. So, hey, look, I've never done this before, and who the hell knows what's going to happen? It's brutal. And I've always heard, from the time I'm a young guy, that a really successful person cannot run for high political office. And I've heard it 100 times. You can't run. Even now, people are saying, Donald, don't run, please don't run. Thank you, baby, I love you too. But they're saying, don't run, please don't run. They're going to say, oh, gee, you weren't nice to these people from China, where I made a lot of money, by the way, with people in China. I made a lot of money. I mean, on one deal, I owned a big chunk of the Bank of America building in San Francisco, a big chunk of another one. Phil could tell you, I did well. Phil, did I do well with the Chinese? He said, you certainly did. And we need somebody. I'm not blaming. When China this year, as an example, is going to make, let's call it profit, simple word, is going to make on this country this year, $300 billion, $300 billion. And then they say, these idiots, they say, oh, but you don't want to free trade and this and that. Of course I don't want to trade when somebody's taking away $300 billion. I want to trade at least where it's a break even, but ideally where we make $300 billion. Why shouldn't we make for a change? Now, and what China's really done is they manipulate their currencies. They are professionals at manipulation. They are abusing this country like we've never been abused before, except, of course, for OPEC. I always have them. I have them as a special category. Did you see recently where, a couple of days ago, Saudi Arabia said, let's raise the price, let's cut back production. Can you believe it? You're going to be paying $5 and $6 a gallon for gasoline pretty soon. And they want to go in and raise the price of oil because we have nobody in Washington that sits back and said, you're not going to raise that fucking price. You understand me? And it's unbelievable. So we're in Libya. Part of the reason we're in Libya? Because the Arab League, which is Saudi Arabia, and a few of the other richest countries in the world, they have money coming out of their ears. You go to those countries, you see the most incredible airports being built or already built. You see bridges that make the George Washington Bridge in New York look like a toy. You see the most unbelievable things. And you come home. We're like a third world nation. You land at LaGuardia. It's broken. It's dirty. I mean, I don't mind going over potholes in my car. I don't like doing it in a plane. But you got them. And they wouldn't be there except for us. We protect them for nothing. For nothing. So Libya, Saudi Arabia, and the others say, we don't like Gaddafi. We don't like him. We'd like you to take him out. And Obama said, okay. So he forms a group, meaning NATO, which is us, by the way, just so you understand. NATO is us. A lot of people say NATO, but NATO is largely us. So we don't even have control of what the hell we're doing. Gaddafi tonight's riding down the streets. Wait, can you believe this? He's waving at everybody. So we form a group, and listen to this one. Who's the leader of the group? France! France! France wanted to go in first. Now, of course, we haven't seen them since, but they were there the first time. And they got all the glamour. They took the glamour. So they form a group, and they go in, and Obama talks about the regime, maybe not, and we don't want to kill anybody, we don't want to hurt anybody, we do want to change government, but we don't want to hurt. Nobody knows what the hell he's talking about. And you know the other thing about Libya that really bothers me, because we get back again, it always gets back to China, because while we're spending billions of dollars being policemen of the world, China is spending billions of dollars a day buying the world and calling us stupid. You know, I have a lot of friends. I just sold recently an apartment for $33 million. Can you believe it? Only in New York can this happen. But an apartment was just sold in a building that I have on Central Park West, $33 million, to a Chinese gentleman. And I get to know a lot of guys and a lot of big people from China. And they look at me. This is before, you know, by the way, about 2 months ago, they stopped talking to me so much. You understand. They're saying, shit, do you believe we're talking to this guy and now maybe something crazy could happen? They see these polls. But it's amazing. But they sit there, and before I did this, they'd say to me, because they're sort of friends of mine, you know, and competitors, but friends. They're saying, Donald, we don't believe that your government allows us to do this. The one guy looks at me and says, are they stupid? And I say, absolutely, they're stupid. So, you know, I don't blame them. It's like if you make a bad business deal, if you don't know what you're doing, you have to blame yourself. I blame our leaders. Here we have China ripping this country off like nobody's ever seen before. And we have the president of China come a few months ago to Washington, and we give him a state dinner. Now, when people are screwing you, you don't give them state dinners. You don't do it. So what happens is we send them home. And then you heard my statement, right? I said, no, we're not giving dinners. What we do is we sit down in my office for a couple of hours. We either make a deal where you stop manipulating your currency or not. If we make a deal, you can have a state dinner if you want. If you don't make a deal, you take McDonald's and you go home. That's it. That's it. Now, the Chinese economy is growing so fast, it's unbelievable. Our economy, we had some very bad news. It's just not growing. And you say, how can it grow? How can we have jobs? Ben Bernanke said fairly recently that the jobs won't come back for a long time. And I think he mentioned 5 years. And how can you have jobs come back when every time I want to buy a product, like as an example, television sets. As you know, I buy a lot of television. We bought a lot of sets in Trump International. Tremendous. Thousands of television sets, one order. So I said, I want an American company. My people look at me like I'm crazy. There's no American company. So we end up buying LGs from South Korea. Good television set, but why don't we make them? Why aren't we making them? You know, I'll tell you a great one. And I like the people of South Korea. It's great. I mean, I do business with them. I made a great deal with them in New York on Trump World Tower. It was a great deal. They were wonderful. But they don't even believe it. So here's what happens recently. We have this contract, and it's going to be signed with South Korea. And it's a big, big deal. And Barron Trump, who's 4 years old, wouldn't sign it from our standpoint because the deal is so bad. It's so bad. Like a moron would not sign it. Nobody would sign it. And what happens is our president goes there, and he wants to sign, but they don't want to sign because they want better. It's not good enough to just, you know, whip the hell out of us. They want it to be even more. So now what happens is times are a little bit different, and a couple of bombs get lobbed over, you know, to the island and from North Korea. So all of a sudden, North Korea is hitting them with a couple of little, like, lobbing over some bombs. They call us, they said, we would like very much to sign contract. You are a wonderful, wonderful trading partner. We love you very much. Oh, and by the way, do you mind sending the great aircraft carrier, the George Washington, and about 17 destroyers? Because North Korea is shooting at us. So what do? We have this great aircraft carrier, head over to North Korea. We have all these, the whole Navy, I mean, a big portion of our Navy is going over there. North Korea says, holy shit, this is bad news. This is a little bit more than we counted on. And they stop. We sign a terrible agreement. So then I said to somebody, you know, to start up that engine on a carrier like the George Washington, that costs you probably $1 million just to see if it's working. You know, you'd go bing, boom, $1 million. We know, right? In fact, finest engines in the world. Listen, Mr. Trump, I said, don't start it. I take your word for it. I don't have to hear the engines, okay? I like to save money. I don't care how much money you have, you like to save. So listen to this. So we send the George Washington with all of the planes and the crew and all of the side ships and the destroyers. You know how much they paid us? Nothing. We're stupid. Our leaders are stupid. They're stupid people. It's very, very sad. And there are so many stories like that. You look at it, you know how many soldiers, thousands and thousands of soldiers in between North and South Korea. They give us nothing. In fact, they take our trade. Now, what would I do? I'd do a lot different. I'd say, thank you, darling. I'll think about that. I think I'm gonna make you very happy, by the way. So we have thousands of troops, and you talk about, you know, they have an expression, in harm's way. How would you like to be sitting between North Korea and South Korea, and you're sitting in a little barracks? Those guys are in danger. And you know what? That's fine. I'd say to South Korea, all those television sets you sell us, and all the billions and billions and billions of dollars you make, we're going to protect you, and we're going to make sure you're in good shape, but you're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it. And you want to know something? They would do it in 2 minutes, if you said it. You know, somebody said these people are so protective of President Obama. I mean, it's like unbelievable. Some of the reporters come up, and they say, you don't mean that. I said, what? What kind of a, you know, they're supposed to be like impartial. They go to me on television. You don't mean it. He's good, I'm telling you, he's good. I say, are you all right? Take it easy. I have never seen anybody protected like this guy. You look at what he's doing. Now, I said something, and it came out about 2 or 3 weeks ago, but I've been thinking about it for a long time. But, you know, nobody cared. Who am I telling? Phil Ruffin? The hell does he mean? Contractors? What the hell does that? I've been telling friends. But I've been thinking about it for a long time. When we went to Iraq, everybody said, oh, we're going to Iraq. They have weapons of mass destruction. Well, they didn't. And by the way, they didn't knock down the World Trade Center. And they also killed terrorists. Now it's Harvard. You know, this is like going to Harvard of terrorism. If you want to go to Iraq in terms of a terrorist, this is called the Wharton School of Finance, or Harvard of terrorism. In the old days, he used to shoot the son of a bitches. They had no terrorists. The terrorists said, no way, I'm going there. So what happens is, we've decapitated their army. I mean, they have no army. Their army is corrupt, and they have no army. By the way, their leaders that we put in hate us, and their leaders are dealing with Iran, and I don't even think a shot's going to be fired. So what happens is, I said the other day on Bill O'Reilly's show, and some others, but I said, you know, this could be risky, because a lot of people might not get it. But the funny thing is, the reporters don't get it. You know who gets it? The people get it. So here's what I said. Oh, it's true. You are smarter than the press. Now, I have to tell you, I've been dealing with the press. Some is great and fair and honorable, and some is really scum. They're dishonest, horrible people. I really mean it. You know, they have a horrible relationship with a lot of people, but they're very dishonest. Some, not all. Some are great. But I said just about 3 weeks ago, listen, upon information and belief, Iran, which has been fighting with Iraq forever, years and years, and they were about the same. You know, that's the way it evolved. One would push 10 feet this way, one put it, yeah, ba-ba, then they throw some gas, they throw a bomb, then they go back home, okay? Because they were equal. But now what we've done is decapitated Iraq. So Iran, which is looking to take over the entire, including, by the way, Libya, you know, the rebels, which you hear are gone with the wind. You know, the rebels, they talk about the rebels carrying the flag, they're wonderful people. I hear they're Iran-backed and al-Qaeda-backed. How about we get rid of Gaddafi? We're already in there for $1 billion. We get rid of Gaddafi, we end up with worse. Okay, that could happen. And the other thing is, why isn't China doing it? They get there. We don't get anything from Libya. You know what I did say in Libya? I'm interested in Libya if we keep the oil. And everyone said, oh. And some of the press said, oh my God, that's a sovereign nation. Give me a frickin' break. So what happens with Iraq? What happens with Iraq is sort of similar. We spend in Iraq, think of this, $1.5 trillion so far. You know, we could build a big chunk of our country for that. We go to Afghanistan, we go to Iraq. We build a school, we build a road. They blow up the road, they blow up the school. We build another school, we build another road. They blow them up, we build again. In the meantime, we can't get a fucking school built in Brooklyn. It's unbelievable. No, it's unbelievable. So, when I heard we were going to Iraq, somebody said, oh, we're going for the oil. I said, that makes sense, that's smart. Okay? Now all of a sudden I'm saying, that makes sense. By the way, second largest oil fields in the world. Second largest reserves in the world. $15 trillion. That does a lot to solve our deficit problem, doesn't it? $15 trillion. Second after Saudi Arabia. So, they said, we're going to Iraq. They said, the smart people said, we're going for the oil, but the smart people didn't happen to be running things. So we're in Iraq. Now here's what we do. We go into Iraq, we decimate their army. The people can't stand us. The war is over, but we're policemen. We have policemen. We're not soldiers over there, we're policemen. Okay? We need our policemen over here. And everybody hates us. They don't want us. So what I said is something very sinister, but true. Iran, within 15 minutes after we leave, is going to walk in. They're not going to be fighting anymore. They're going to walk into Iraq. They're going to take over Iraq, and they're going to take over the oil wells. Now, we lost thousands of soldiers with tens of thousands of soldiers, and I see it in New York, no arms, no legs. I mean, seriously wounded and horribly wounded people, brave, great people. And these are tens of thousands. So here we have $15 trillion worth of oil that we're going to hand over to Iran. So I said, it ain't going to happen if I'm president, okay? It ain't going to happen. So what we do is very simple. And I explained this 3 weeks ago for the first time. I said, what we do is very simple. We stay, we get our Exxon Mobils, and we get our great oil companies, we go in there, we give plenty to Iraq, more than they're getting now because it's all obsolete crap. They don't even know what they're doing, and they never will. I mean, you think they're going to be a democracy? Who here thinks they're going to be a democracy? I mean, give me a break. So we go into Iraq, and you know, in the old days, I'm like an old-fashioned warrior. The old days, when you had a war, and you won the war, it was yours. When we have a war, it's amazing. When we have a war, we go in, we lose thousands of lives, tens of thousands wounded, spend $1.5 trillion, and then you know what we do? We leave. Nothing. What did we do this for? So I said, we go in, we take the oil. Now, Bill O'Reilly, who I love, I think he's great, he thought that was radical. Somebody else said, very, very strongly, Donald, it's a sovereign nation. We can't do that. I said, sovereign nation, they don't even, I mean, they're not, they got wiped out. They got nothing. But you know what? If Iran weren't going to take it over, which they are 100%, not 95%, and you know, there's a real good chance no matter what happens, I won't win because, you know, one of these blood-sucking politicians who's been bullshitting people for years will end up, you know, getting elected. And they'll end up leaving and, you know, somebody else, Iran. I guarantee you if that happens, Iran takes over the oil. Iran becomes a force like never before in history. They then take over for Saudi Arabia. They go after Saudi Arabia, which frankly I would protect if they pay us, you know, only if they pay us. Otherwise, I'm not interested. I'm interested in protecting none of them unless they pay. But think of this. We have a great ally. Think of this. We have a great ally over there, a real ally, Israel. And Iran has already said that they want to blow Israel off the face of the earth. They're developing nuclear weapons. Our leadership is weak and pathetic. I mean, we can't even beat Libya, okay? Our leadership is weak and pathetic. So when Iran, which is really a power and going to be a great, great power very soon, especially when they take over a couple of more countries, they're going to have so much money, and we don't do anything about it. And by the way, when they take over Iraq, there's no way we go back, honestly, because we won't have the stomach to go back. We won't have the stomach. You got to stay, you got to take the oil, you got to do it. But what's going to happen to Israel when you have Iran controlling probably Libya? You have them controlling Egypt, which they're going to control. Already they're talking about that. They're going to control everything over there. With all of the money, it's really blackmail money. With all of the money we've paid for years and years and years to take these people. I don't know if you saw the vote. There was a vote in Egypt the other day. 99% of the people want to break the peace treaty with Israel. Did you see that? Did anybody see that? 99%! So we have problems. We have weak, pathetic leadership. We have incompetent leadership. Now, I'm going to make a decision fairly soon. And I would rather, you know, I love my life. Phil can tell you. I'm having a great time. I built a great company. I have a television show that's one of the top shows. It's the top show on NBC. It's the #1 show on NBC. It's doing great. Even the New York Times the other day wrote a nice little piece about it, talking about how great the ratings were. It won the evening. It wins the 10 o'clock hour for the whole week. It's a great show. I mean, I have to give a lot of stuff up. But you know what? It's peanuts compared to the importance of this country. And when I see what OPEC is doing to us, when I see what China is doing, I'll give you a little China story also. China, I said the other day, very, very hard to buy anything outside of China. Oh, certain other countries also, but China's, you know, the one. And I said, somebody said, well, what would you do? What can you do? So easy. I drop a 25% tax on China. And you know, I said to somebody that it's really the messenger. The messenger is important. I could have one man say, we're going to tax you 25%. And I could say another, listen, you motherfuckers, we're going to tax you 25%. Now, you've said the same exact thing. You've said the same exact thing, but it's a different messenger. And I'll tell you what will happen with China, in my opinion. And I'm not looking to have enemies with China. You know, I actually get along. I'm a lover, not a fighter, okay? You've been reading about that for years. But I'll tell you something. When they really believe it, when they don't have Obama bowing to the king of Saudi Arabia, bow down. Remember that one? Does everybody remember that? Remember, they're all screaming, drop to your knees, drop to your knees. So when we don't have Obama having all these state dinners and everything, when we have somebody that's real and tough and smart, and sane. I'm saying smart. And you say to China, I'm sorry, we're going to have to put a 25% tax on your products. They'll say, when? I said, how about this evening? Not like, everybody knows they're abusing us. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows they're manipulating their currencies, and they're brought up on it. They're brought up on charges, but we take 6 months just to put in a charge, and then we don't do anything. So I'm not putting charges in. We're going to charge 25%. Now, the real number, based on the manipulation, it's so severe that the real number should be 45%. But 25, let's start with 25. We can always raise it. I'll tell you what's going to happen. When they believe the message, they don't believe it right now. When they believe the message, they're going to do one thing. They're going to give us anything they want. Because, the IMF, did you see the International Monetary Fund? They came out with a statement last week that this is unheard of, this is unthinkable, that in 2016, that's in like 4 years, China is going to eclipse the United States as a great economic power. We're going to be in second. And if you would have said that 10 years ago, if you would have said that during the time of the late, great Ronald Reagan, people would have laughed at you. They would have laughed. So China's going to eclipse us in 4 years. Now, under the Trump doctrine, that doesn't happen. You know why? Because we're going to start making our own products. We're not going to let them made in China. When you go to China and you want to sell stuff in China, they make you build a plant and they take all your technology and they pirate everything you have. Look at the deal that General Electric made. They gave up all of this high technology in order to go there. They had to build factories. When the Chinese sell to us, oh, just come on in, folks, we'll pay you whatever. We are so stupid. It's unbelievable. So under the Trump doctrine, it doesn't work that way. It's fellas, we love you very much. You want to sell to us? Build your plant in Alabama. Build your plant in Nevada. Build your plant wherever the hell you want it, but you're not bringing in all your crap, including your rotted sheetrock that's making everybody sick. Let me tell you something. The other thing is we make a much better product, but you can't compete price-wise because of the manipulation. So one of two things is going to happen, and I hope it's the second. The first is they stop screwing around, but the second is they don't. So here's what happens. About 60% of their sales will stop. We will increase the hell out of employment. We'll be building plants. I saw one the other day, a fantastic Wilcox, a fantastic plant yesterday in New Hampshire. We will start building, they make weaponry, most incredible plants. I didn't even know we had anything like that anymore because everything's made in other countries. Unbelievable. And this is high technology stuff. Incredible. Wilcox, look it up. Great. And I don't even have a piece of the company. I wish I did. But they make their own products. But you'll have thousands of those places once you do that. So they'll behave. But if they don't behave, that's even better for us because we're going to start building our own plants. And we'll tell Apple and we'll tell all these other companies, you got to build your own factories. I'm sorry, you can't make it over there. We got to put our own people to work. So, and I'll just go one step further. It can happen so fast. One other thing, oil. You look at what's going on. You look at what's going on. And we can't drill in the Gulf. And we can't drill in Alaska. Now, nobody knows more, and Phil can tell you about the environment than I do. I actually receive, a lot of people find it hard to believe, but I receive a lot of environmental awards. In China and other countries, they just burn whatever the hell is available, and that smoke is spewing out of those chimneys, and those factories are cheap as hell, and they don't give a shit. Over here, we want clean technology. We want green. What the hell good is it green here if this guy over here is spewing all sorts of crap into the air? What are we doing? So, and I believe in the green. But what we're doing with oil, we've got to drill in Alaska. We've got to drill in the, we've got to drill. We've got to drill. Because there is so much oil. Plus, we have natural gas, and we have a thing called coal. You know, we have enough natural gas. We have more natural gas than all of the oil in the entire world put together. Likewise with coal. We have so much coal. And yet, you know, in Abu Dhabi, very rich, unbelievably rich. The poorest people have money pouring out of their ears, okay? Did you see what they did the other day? They are making all of their transportation is going to run on natural gas so they can sell the stupid United States oil. We don't want to use the oil. We can sell it to the idiots. So I only say this. We have the potential to have a great country again. And I have to say again, we're not a great country now. We're not a great country. We love our country, but we're not a great country. If I run, and if I win, and I hope you're going to be really pleasantly surprised. We're not talking long, believe me, before June. If I run, and if I win, we will have a rich country again. We'll have a great country again. And you know, in a certain way, what I almost like the most, we'll be respected as a country again, okay? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much.